Alright, hi everybody. Today we're going to be learning about probability. This video should help you with both lessons for this week, for those of you that are going to be working on that. And if you are in the Zoom meetings, it'll kind of go over stuff that we did in the Zoom meeting, and it'll be additional practice also. So just a quick recap. Probability. That first sentence here is important. It says probability is a measure of how likely it is that event will happen. So, for example, the probability of it raining tomorrow. That's an example of the way you use the word probability. Probability is how likely something is going to happen. And here, it says the probability is a number between 0 and 1. And I'll talk about that right now. Right here, there's a probability scale. 1 is mean like it's 100%, and 0 is 0%. Because remember, 1 written as a percent would be 100%. If something has a probability of 1 or 100%, that means it's certain to happen. That means it will happen. For example, I am certain to have my heart rate go up if I run a mile. Something that you know for sure will happen. And something over here at impossible, if something has a 0 likelihood or a 0% likelihood, that means it's impossible to happen. It's impossible that dinosaurs will walk this earth tomorrow, right? That's not something that's gonna happen. And in the middle, you have 1/2. Remember, half written as a percent is 50%. That means it's equally likely to occur or not occur. For example, you flip a coin, it's equally likely to land on heads as it is equally likely to land on tails. Because there's two choices or two possible outcomes, and one of the outcomes is heads and one of the outcomes is tails. And over here in the middle, anything from between equally likely to occur or not occur and certain is going to be likely. It could be 51% to 99%. Something that is not for sure going to happen, but it's likely going to happen. It's good chance it's going to happen. And then over here on the other side, anything between 0% and 50%. So for example, 1% and 49%. That means it's unlikely to occur. It might still happen, but it's not likely. All right, so keep that in mind as we talk about some of these problems. I'll go through some of these problems. So, let's see. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom part. It says match each spinner below with the words impossible, unlikely, equally likely to occur or not occur, likely, and certain. So keep these keywords up, keep these keywords in mind when we're going through these problems. So right now, what's the chance that it's gonna land on the black part? You have a spinner, so you have like a arrow and you spin it around and like you flick it. What's the likelihood that it'll land on black? The first one will have to be, it's possible it'll land on black, right? But if you put not likely, because the black portion is pretty small compared to the whole thing. It's less than half, right? The black part is less than half of the whole circle, and less than half would be unlikely. And then for B, for that one, it's kind of like the opposite of spinner A, right? We're looking, what's the likelihood that it's going to land on the black? The black part here is a big portion of the circle. So this one would be likely. The black part takes up more than half of the circle, so it's likely that if you have a spinner, it'll land on the black part. For C, how likely is it to land on a black part for part C? So if we have a spinner and we spun it around, we can see it's impossible to land on black part, right? There is no black part on the circle, so we put impossible for that one. And part D, if you notice, part D, the black part is half of the whole circle, right? So if you had a spinner again, or it's a spinner and you spin the little arrow around, what's the chance that it lands on black? Right here we put equally likely to occur or not occur. Because right here, that means it's 50% chance that it's going to land on the black, because, again, the black part is half of it, right? And right here, you have half. And then the last one. What's the chance that it's going to land on black? Again, you spin an arrow there. You know it's going to land somewhere on the circle. You know it's going to land somewhere on that circle. And all of it's black, so you know it's certain to land on the black part. So that's practice of knowing probability and being able to use any of these 5 words up here to describe a situation. Alright, so we'll look at another practice for this part. Looking at here, number 3. This is a shape will be randomly drawn from the box shown below. Decide where each event would be located on the probability scale. Let me scroll down so we can see the probability scale. Then place the letter for each event on the appropriate place on the probability scale. So the first one, it says, how likely is it that a circle is drawn? Inside this box, are there circles? No, right? So you put your hand in the box and grab one of the objects or one of the shapes. The probability of grabbing a circle is 0. It's impossible. So this event goes over at A, impossible, because there's no circle, so it's impossible to grab a circle. Okay, looking at B, what's the probability that a square is drawn? Look over here. Let's count how many squares are there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, right? There's 4 squares out of how many total shapes are there, though? We gotta know. We have to know that to be able to figure out where this goes. Because if there's 100 shapes in there and there's only 4 squares, it's unlikely to draw a square, right? But here, there are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 total shapes. And it's 4 out of 9. Is 4 half of 9? No, 4 is a little bit less than half of 9. So you could put half would be right here. So the probability of drawing a square would be a little bit below half, because 4 is a little bit less than half of 9. It's unlikely still, but it's close to equally likely. Last one, or not the last one, for C, it says, what's the probability that a star is drawn? How many stars are there? There's only 1 star out of, like we said earlier, 9 total shapes, right? So 1 out of 9. So there's 1 star out of 9 total shapes. There's 1 out of 9 is pretty, it's definitely unlikely, right? 9 total shapes in there, and you probably grabbing that 1 star. That would also be unlikely, but put that over here. It's definitely more unlikely to grab a star than a square. Last one. What's the probability that a shape that is not a square is drawn? Let's circle all the ones that are not squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes that are not squares. Out of how many total shapes? Again, 9. Is 5 more or less than half of 9? It's a little bit more than half, right? So the likelihood that you draw a shape that is not a square, it would be in the likely section. Equally likely would mean it's half the chance, but 5 is not half of 9. It's greater than half of 9. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Alright, so here, this next part, here we're going to be able to record or give the value of a probability. So when it asks what's the likelihood or what's the probability of something happening, instead of just saying it's likely or unlikely, we're going to be able to give it a value, a decimal or percent. So here it says a 7th grade student surveyed students at her school. She asked them to name their favorite pet. Below is a bar graph showing the result of the survey. So looking at just the first 2 parts, is use the results from the survey to answer the following questions. Part A, how many students answered the survey question? So here all we got to do is figure out how many total people or students answered the survey. We got 9 answered dog, 6 answered cat, 4 answered turtle, 5 answered snake, 5 answered fish, and 2 answered gerbil. So we add that up, we got 10 right here, another 10 is 20, 29 plus 2 is 31. So 31 students answered the survey. How many students answered or said that snake was their favorite? Again, right here, just to figure out how many, you just look at the bar for that section. For snake, bar ends up right here, that's 5. Or goes up here, and you see how it lines up 5, so it's 5 for that one. Okay, so now to the probability part. It says now suppose a student is randomly selected and asked what his favorite pet is. For part C, this is what is your estimate that the probability of that student saying that a dog is their favorite pet? So what's the probability that you call a student and they're going to say their favorite pet is a dog? First, back here, see, there's 9 people who like dog soda, right? So do 9. And how many total students is that? There's 9. Remember, there's 31 total students answered the survey. So we can put our probability as 9 out of 31. You could write it out as a decimal. We can change that to as a fraction. I'll write it a little bit smaller, 9 over 31. And right here we could do the long division. You can use the calculator if you want. I'm going to do that. We get approximately 0.29, which is also 29%. So there's 3 ways you can write a probability. You can write it as a fraction here, as a decimal. You can convert it by dividing the numerator by the denominator. And then you could turn to percent by moving the decimal over 2 times to the right or multiplying by 100. Let's look at the next one. For question D, what is the estimate for a probability that the student saying that a gerbil is their favorite pet? Back here, remember we had 2 students select gerbil out of 31 total. So just again, 2 out of 31. You get 2 divided by 31. You get 0.06. I just rounded it. It goes on more, but we could just leave like that. And 0.06, remember, our students struggle or kind of mix this up. I think this is 60%. Remember, you move the decimal 2 times to the right. So that's 6%. Last one. What is the estimate for your probability of that student saying that a frog is his favorite pet? If you look back at the table, the graph, nobody selected frog, right? So it's 0 out of 31. And right here we should know if it's 0 out of 31, that's just, you do 0 divided by 31, that's 0, which is also 0%. So that's how you identify the probability of something happening. It's, so for example, to figure out the probability of someone liking a cat, all you do is you figure out how many people like a cat. So cat over the total. That's how you figure out the probability of someone liking cat. You want to figure out the probability of someone liking fish, you do the number of people like fish over the total. So for all these problems, for probabilities, it's always the chance of something happening. You look at how many there were of that over the total. So hopefully that helps. And that'll be the end of the video.